Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've got a great guest and a great show. I'll tell you a little more about him in just a minute. Thank you to everybody that hung in there with us last week. I especially want to thank Bonnie Gordon for letting us replay her episode from last season. She's amazing. I know you all loved watching her again. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for always being amazing. I said that already, but who cares? You still are. Tonight's guest, Karma Auger. You may not know who he is now, but you're going to love him when this interview is done tonight. What a great guy, great musician. Absolutely became one of my favorite people. Everybody that asked me questions about me being gone last week, I had a little family thing, but I'm happy to report that everything is fine. My mom is doing well, and thank you to everybody that reached out to me. There were a lot of you, so thank you for asking the questions. I'm extremely happy to say that she is doing very, very, very well. Okay, more about Karma Auger coming right up after this. The all-new GrooveDinerAfterDark.com is your home for all the things that groove. Watch live episodes, visit the archives, check out the YouTube channel, learn more about your host. Own some merchandise. We've got it all under one roof. Updates will continue to roll out throughout the season, including video drum lessons, industry coaching, production tips, and much more. Tune in for the show, then visit the website each and every week so that you can answer that most important question. Do you groove? Hey, thanks for joining us tonight here on the Groove Diner. It is after dark, isn't it? It's so dark. It's so cold here in California. And everybody that's complaining to me about it never being cold in California, leave me alone. It's very cold here. It is for us anyway. Wow, what a great show we've got for you tonight. I see Toby is here. Hi, Toby. Nice to see you here. Charles is here already. Reggie Doss is here tonight already. It's so good to see everybody here joining the crowd. Be sure to tell your friends, share the post, share the broadcast so that your friends know that you're here. We are looking forward to presenting you Karma Auger. Karma he's sort of a Renaissance man in no small way, really. I think you're going to enjoy getting to know Karma and seeing his musical proficiency and virtuosity. We've got a couple of videos that you're going to want to see. And the way that he plays with his dad, who is an icon in the music industry, you're going to thoroughly enjoy that. So here we go. Enjoy the show. We'll be right back. Everybody, thank you for hanging with us tonight. I want to introduce you to Karma Auger. He came over to the Groove Diner. Welcome to the Groove Diner. That's the name of the studio.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Awesome. Hello, everyone.
Let's start with the elephant in the room, shall we?
Let's.
Your dad.
Yeah.
Your dad couldn't be much more famous if he tried.
He's awesome. I love him to pieces. He's absolutely hilarious and cool and the most down-to-earth person. And so it's when you get to play music with a person of that caliber, it's an education and a joy. And I've been lucky enough to get to spend the last 30 years on tour with him, and
that's amazing.
And it's been an incredible, incredible time.
Sure. In case you don't know, his dad is Brian Auger, I guess you would call him a synthesizer prodigy.
Keyboard player extraordinaire, Hammond organ, Fender Rhodes, definitely synthesizers all through the 80s, and and just monster groove funk machine.
Indeed. I actually saw you guys play together at the Keith Emerson tribute.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you were there. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I snuck in that night, and I kind of hung toward the mid back. And I was trying to see if I could figure out a way to say hi, but that was an insane crowd in that room with so many people. A couple of questions I've wanted to ask you. First of all, playing that kind of music with your dad, that requires a lot of a drummer. So you don't just have that gig because you're his son. You earned that gig because you play your butt off. I mean, you're a killer player, man.
Thank you.
And it's amazing to me to watch you do it. Also, he's a lefty, and I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not sure we can be friends.
Most people don't know how they feel about that, but they learn to love it.
Yeah, right. Tell me about what it's like for you as the drummer, learning that kind of music in that sort of environment with those kinds of people. I mean, you were on stage with Bissonette and Vinny, and who else was playing? I mean, that's heavy.
Yeah, and Joe Travers,
right?
And, I mean, who's like one of my faves.
Sure.
You know, from Zappa Does Zappa.
Right.
Talk about that kind of music.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important, like, I'm a student of life, and so to me, I'm just making my way and I'm figuring it out, and I'm hopefully getting better a little bit every day. Sure. And to arrive at the point where you play that music, it obviously doesn't happen in a year, and you don't start playing drums and then end up there. It's a lifetime of work, and you arrive there at some point, and you study and you get better and you practice and you hone your craft, and if you're lucky, you get to play with some great people along the way. And
sure.
And what was really magical about that night for me, and playing the song that we played, that my dad kind of took a couple different things of Keith's and stuck them together and made a tune, was that we he's one of those guys that takes odd time and makes it feel like Vinny does, right? Like Vinny can make odd time groove like crazy. So Dad is another one of those.
Sure.
He just makes everything feel really smooth and easy. So he's great to play with, because you just always know where the pocket is when he's playing.
I bet you do. Yeah, wow. I'm assuming this. I don't know this. Did you have rock stars in and out when you were a kid and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. Like, you know, lots of the who's who of the UK when we were living in the UK. So I was born in 1970, and in 75, early 76, we moved to the States, to San Francisco, to the Bay Area. And then, so my first years and my first kind of impressions were all in London in the UK. Right. And my parents had a ton of friends who were huge actors and were all in the theater in London. Lots of big name people. And they would always come over after their shows, because we lived in the West End. And so everybody was always over. And I just grew up around tons of musicians and tons of actors. And and my parents always had just great people around. So it was, to me, they were just amazingly cool, creative people. And I mean, what a blessing to grow up around that. And Robbie McIntosh, who was the original drummer for the Average White Band, he's like family. I have pictures of me with his son, and
he's so good.
He's so good.
It's one of my favorite bands, and the stuff he did. I mean, I love Ferroni.
Yeah,
but what Robbie did was just, oh my gosh.
Yeah, Robbie. There was like this group of drummers that were the guys who could play in this one, who got hired for all the funk gigs and the kind of like rock and funk gigs, and it was Robbie. And then it was Steve. And then there was another drummer who came through my dad's band. His name's Andre Ceccarelli.
Okay. Oh, I know who that is. Sure.
Didi Ceccarelli.
He did a gig he played with Sting for a minute.
I'm sure it happened.
Like in live in Peru, I'm a big Sting fan, and I remember him specifically on that gig.
Wow, that's so cool. I know that he played with Dee Dee Bridgewater for years and years.
Yeah.
Because he's actually a jazz guy. But when he played fusion, it was just next level. Like his pocket was just unbelievable. He played traditional as well.
Of course.
And he played, so my dad had a huge tour in the States in the early 70s. He was going out as a package with Herbie Hancock's Headhunters. And it wasn't like who headlined. It was just like, depending on whose audience was bigger in the city, they were going to play after, and the other band played before, and they kind of switched as they went. And it was like, I think, a 6-week tour where they went to 6 different clubs and played a week in each place, or however they did it back then. And he when was this must have been 74, 75 maybe. And Robbie had been in the band, and then he left the band to go to Average White Band, and Steve Ferrone came in the band, and then he left to go to Average White Band when Robbie had passed away. And so my dad he was leaving for the tour to go open with Herbie, and I think they'd done some dates already together. So the story is that, so Dee Dee shows up, and they do a rehearsal in the afternoon in the gig, and they play the first gig, and both Mike Clark and Paul Jackson like are in the wings watching, and they're both like, who is this drummer? Oh my gosh. And so obviously, you know, when you're on tour, it's one big family, and everybody got really close. And but Dee Dee, what a special player.
Oh, that's nice, man. Were drums your first instrument?
I started playing piano since I was little.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah. Exactly. and I loved it, but it wasn't my passion. And my dad, one of the things he taught me was, whatever you're doing, like, make it your passion, because if whatever you do in life, you're going to work really hard at. If it's your passion, it won't feel so terrible like work. It'll
say that again. I'm not even kidding, because we have a lot of people in high school that watch this show.
Yeah,
and that's the lesson that I always try to lead them with.
Well, there's two main lessons that my dad taught me, and the first one is, whatever you're doing, do it 100%. Whatever it is, whether it's taking out the trash, whatever it is, whatever task you're trying to accomplish, give it 100% of your energy, your focus, your attention, and your time, and do it properly. Because what you do is you build habits. That's what everything in life as you get older is about. It's about good habits. And what habits do is, when everything's groovy and you have all the energy in the world and you're fine, you don't rely on those habits. But when you're tired and you're beat down and you're jet lagged and you are exhausted and you can't barely function and you've got the flu and whatever else is going on in your life, or you're just stressed, your habits kick in, and that is what comes through every time. So you can rely on good habits. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you can, figure out what you're passionate about in your life and do that, and go for it and go 100% in on that. And if you can make that your work or your job, or you can, what doesn't really matter, whether it's a hobby, whether it's, whether you do it for yourself and it brings happiness to you, be passionate, figure out what you're passionate about, and put energy into that. That's really important.
That's great. I mean, that's we could just kind of say, okay, thank you for being here. Now, those
things are so important. And I see it in you. I see it in your work ethic. I see it in your life. I see it in, you're definitely one of those people who, you're all in on what you're doing.
Indeed.
And I love that. That's important to me. I gravitate towards that.
Thank you for saying that. I do appreciate it a lot. Tell me about drums. When did that become a thing for you? Was it instant, easy, hard?
Well, it was. Okay, so it was instant in the sense that, so I'd gone to school. I went to like 13 or 14 schools in my life. I just did a million things because we traveled a bunch. And so I was born in 1970. When I was 5 or 6, we moved to Northern California, went to a couple different schools up there. Then we moved back to Europe. When I was 12 for a couple years, I lived in Sardinia, Rome, and Milan. My mother's from Sardinia in Italy. And for a year, and I did school over there. And then we moved to England for a year, and I went to school in England for a year. And then we moved back to the US, and we moved to LA area. But we bounced all around the LA area. We started in the Valley, we went to Malibu, and then we ended up in Venice. What I've called home since 87. So really the longest I've ever stayed in any one place is actually in Venice. But after getting out of high school and going to college for a little bit and realizing that wasn't exactly it, and then I went to ITT Tech and studied electronics engineering for a bit, and then I ended up in LA Recording Workshop, and kind of was finding my way to what I felt was going to be something in music, some sort of music career. Mm-hmm. I literally woke up one day, sat up out of bed, put my feet down, and it was like a lightning bolt. Drums. oh my gosh, why haven't I thought of this before? I was 20 years old and it just hit me just like that. Drums. Why didn't I think of this? And so I remember going in the kitchen. My dad was in the kitchen, like making a cup of tea.
Right.
And I was like, Dad, I figured it out. I know what I want to do. And basically I was that kid that every 3 months there was a new passion. And he was like, uh-huh.
Right.
You know, like, let me have a sip of tea and prepare myself for this. It's too early
Right.
for this conversation. And I said, I'm going to be a drummer. I'm going to play drums. And he was like, uh-huh. Another sip of tea. And I said, no, I'm serious. I'm actually serious about this. I want to do this. So I had a friend who I knew who had a drum kit. It was a Fibes kit. It was a clear.
Sure. Yeah.
It was an amazing sounding kit.
Right.
And
I love their lugs. They were kind of the diamond shape.
Yeah, they had killer lugs. And I called him up and said, hey, you know that drum kit you got? You wouldn't by chance want to sell it, would you? It was the only person I knew that had drums.
Right.
Now remember, this is before the internet, okay?
Right.
This is 1990, way before the internet. So like you had to scour magazines and you had to like get the recycler and look in there if you wanted to buy stuff, and then there was no pictures of anything. It was just drum set, 10, 12, 14, 20, $500
right, yeah.
Called Sam,
yeah,
and then a number. And so I called up my buddy and I said, I'd love to, is that, are you thinking that drum set, do you still have it? And I'm interested in like playing drums and I want to maybe get a drum set. And he goes, man, I'm leaving the country in a week. I'm actually splitting and I'm selling the kit. And so I was like, great. And he sold me the whole kit, cymbals, stands, drums. There was 2 snare drums. One of them turned out to be a really dope old Slingerland, like killer sparkle red, really nice snare drum.
Nice.
And he sold me the whole thing for $200.
Come on.
So I get this kit.
You just killed Eli.
And it's a little rickety and kind of like the hardware is all a bit janky and stuff.
Sure.
So I set it up and I was so fired up, and I turned on my dad had these big speakers in his room, and of course I set it up right in the living room, right next to the TV. Yeah, man. My dad was just like, "You just got to be kidding me." I was like, don't worry." So I set it all up, and I remember playing to the first song that I played to, which was off one of my dad's records called Planet Earth Calling. It was this one song that I really liked, the drum groove, and there was like a drum solo at the end. So I thought already I was gonna like be killing it. Of course. Right? Day one, of course, first time sitting down. And it was that total moment of gravitas where you go, oh my God, I'm so bad at this. This is going to take so long to get good at. And I literally went upstairs in my room and I sat down and I like had a talk with myself. Okay, if this is it, there's a serious amount of work involved. I'm going to have to really be serious about this. This is not a joke. I cannot suck for long because I'm going to hate it. Right. And I won't want to do this anymore. And I'm going to lose the passion. So I can't lose the passion. So what are we doing about that? And I put a plan together that day. Okay, I have to practice this many hours a day. I have to play this many hours a day. Really? And so at the time we had cassettes, right? 90-minute cassette. Yeah, of course. So my dad was cool enough. I think that came later, but before I share that thought, so I started making tapes for myself of all my favorite stuff. Yeah. I just make a bunch of mixtapes. And so I had 90-minute tapes. So I would play 2 90-minute tapes, just 3 hours. I'd take a break. I'd go eat something, drink something, go back in the room, play 2 more tapes, take another break, and then maybe play 1 more. So I'd practice somewhere between 6 to 8 hours a day. Wow. And I moved the kit up into my bedroom. I soundproofed my bedroom, and that's all I did. I just slept. Soundproofed. Yeah, soundproofed. Yes. I bought like some foam mattresses from the local fabric store, which I don't know if you can even still do that, but and then I just like stuck them in my windows and put it up against my door and just did whatever. And my dad had these old speakers that he used, which were cabinets that were about this tall and this wide. And he had, I think it was 2 12s in each one, or 2 15s, something insane. And I dragged those into my room and set them up with like an old like an old hi-fi.
Like a turntable receiver.
Yeah, exactly. And just my tape deck and my like hi-fi receiver.
Yeah.
And I just turned them towards me. So they were like stereo. It was so loud. And I would just rock out and hit as hard as I could and play. And that's how I learned how to play, just doing that 8 hours a day. And one thing I want to share, because it's really important, is after like 4 days, I had ringing in my ears.
Oh, I bet.
And so I went out and got earplugs, and I've been in earplugs since the beginning. And that has saved my hearing, and it's why I can work and mix and produce and do stuff now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I joined the earplug club very early on. I think it's really interesting because I too was late to drum set. I mean, 20 is late. That's a late start.
Late?
Yeah.
So late?
I was 21.
Oh, wow.
Before I got my first drum set, and I was totally lost. I mean, I'm a marching guy. So I was so lost. I had great hands and my feet were god awful terrible. And I'm like, I don't need feet. What do I need to worry about that for? And then one day, this bass player is like, dude, you suck. What? But I can, you suck. And he's the one that kind of beat me about the head to teach me about learning how to groove. And I just I've always felt so behind because I came to it so late.
The interesting and the challenge of drum set is to get 4 limbs all playing the same groove at the same time and all parts feeling the one groove the same way and having independence. Those are the 2 challenges.
Yeah, right.
So if you're missing 2 of the limbs
exactly.
and you come to that later, that's a huge challenge.
It was, yeah.
I play off of my kick drum. That is what sets my groove, my pocket.
Yeah.
So everything is the kick drum.
Right.
That's what sets the whole pocket for me.
Right.
So I want to hear my kick drum.
Sure.
Even if I'm in a small club or whatever's going on, I always want to hear my kick drum because that's how I feel the pocket.
I'm a snare drum guy. I want to know where that snare drum is. If I can't find the snare drum in my in-ears, I'm lost. And that's the thing. But
isn't that interesting how we all perceive it in whatever way it is that works for us?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's no wrong or right. It's just whatever works,
right.
Which I also love.
Exactly.
It's like I love these conversations for that exact reason.
Absolutely.
It's like, how do you do that thing that you do? Oh yeah, well I do it like this. Right. I would have never thought of that.
Did you ever play the Grand Ole Opry by chance?
I've never played the Grand Ole Opry.
I lived in Nashville for a while, and I played the Opry a couple of times. The house drummer was a lefty.
Oh,
so the house kit was a lefty kit. That they also set up a dual righty kit out of one kick drum. So he had hi-hats and such over here, hi-hats and such over here. It was basically a mirror image kit because he knew that he was likely the only lefty on any given night. What about you as a lefty? Has anything been particularly more challenging for you, or do you find that something that helps you stand out from the crowd?
Good question. I don't know that it helps you stand out. I do think there is. I would like to think that the left brain, right brain thing, the like more creative versus like the organized, part of yourself. I would like to think that. First of all, I'd like to think that I'm in my right mind.
Of course, yes.
And then.
Jury's out, but
jury's out.
Yes,
jury's out. Well, we may never know,
and we don't want to.
But I'm not sure. I think so. The challenge is that I can never go and sit in.
Of course,
or I can, but it's like for example on the Keith gig. Right. We all played one drum kit,
right,
and we had to figure out a way to make that possible. And so I left the entire kit alone, even though they all told me, including all the techs,
of course,
man, take your time, turn the whole kit around, do whatever you want. I was like, there's no way.
But you're not going to be
I'm doing that to everyone that comes after me,
Right.
So all I did was I literally swapped the bass drum and the hi-hat and put the snare on the other side of the kick drum pedal. And I left all the toms the same. That's why I hardly played any fills other than like snare fills and stuff, because also where all the rest of the cymbals were, I would have been like reaching so far to hit anything.
Yeah, for real.
But it was fine. It was I'm a team player, so I want everything to be easy for everybody, and
of course,
I don't ever just think of myself.
Right.
I'm a big brother. I have 2 younger sisters, and as we traveled so much, I was always the brother that was like, "Hey guys, we're all like the only thing that ever stayed the same was the 3 of us."
Right.
So everywhere we went, it was always important that the team did well everywhere we went, and so I'm just a big brother in life too.
Right.
It carried over.
Right. I love that. That's great.
Groove Diner After Dark, the store. Get your official Groove Diner merchandise by visiting our new store at groovedinerafterdark.com. Coffee mugs, long sleeve shirts, t-shirts, pint glasses, stickers. Now you can show your support of Groove Diner After Dark from head to toe. Simply visit our website or click the link in this video description and get your gear today. Thank you for your support.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight. We've really had a great time doing this episode. More to come from Karma in just a few minutes. I wanted to take a moment and say hello to everybody that's here. Justin, I just saw you pop in. Charles is here from South Africa. I saw Reggie over here. I'm not sure who else I'm missing. Toby is here, of course, and Mark Branson. Thanks for dropping in. I actually was at Mark's house this past week. What a beautiful new place you've got, man. Truly a beautiful new home. It's really great to have Dan here with us tonight as well, taking care of all things social media. He's the one that's handling all these links and everything. So give him some shout outs and some props. He doesn't get nearly the love that he deserves for the job he does every single episode. I wanted to let's just talk a minute about Karma. There were a couple of things that really stood out to me. 90-minute cassette tapes. I remember the big argument about a 90-minute versus a 60-minute. Because the quality level of the 90-minute was nowhere near as good as the quality level of a 60-minute. They were both garbage. But, we thought that there was a real audible difference. Yeah, it just doesn't sound as good. Okay, whatever. But the 90-minute cassette, 45 and 45. Practice for 45, take a break, practice for 45. That was just the way to do it. A lot of what Karma's talking about reminded me of something that was something of a mantra for the University of Alabama drumline my very first year. We had t-shirts that said, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. It said, drive, dedication, determination, right here on the shirt. And that was the way that we approached everything. It was how we became a much better drumline. And that's what Karma's talking about, is drive, determination, dedication to becoming great at something that he had assumed would be easy, but turned out to be quite difficult. Kendall Johnson, I don't know if you're here with us tonight. You often are, but I really wanted you specifically to see this moment with him, with Karma, because Kendall came to drums very late in his 50s, and he had thought that it would be very easy because he's a brilliant musician, Kendall is, and he didn't realize just how difficult drums can be. So it's a fun thing to me to watch somebody like Kendall start late and to start to gain a different appreciation of what people like us do, Hearing protection. I can't say it enough, whether it's in-ear monitors, which I'm a big believer in the in-ear monitor, or if it's just having earplugs. You get foam ones if you must. I keep sitting here on my drums at all times. These are shooter's muffs, and when I put these on, the drums sound amazing. I also have custom molded earplugs, custom molded in-ear monitors. I want to be able to hear everything, but not damage my hearing. It's such an important part of what we do. If we can't hear, guess what? We can't play, And that's a big deal to me. I know it is to Karma. And I encourage everybody that's watching to take the time to protect your hearing for a lifetime. It makes a big difference. So we're going to tackle the next half of this interview with Karma, and look forward to hearing your comments. Don't forget to give us a like and a follow if you don't already. We're on all the major social media channels at Groove Diner After Dark and TikTok, Buddy Gibbons. So you can find me there once in a while when I've decided that I want to eat some chips. And boy, have I got some good chips for this upcoming week, I'll tell you. Right, Eli?
They were yummy.
Yeah, I let him have one. I don't share those things, man. Let's see what Charles is saying over here. It's so easy to overplay and let the music suffer, but Karma's playing is like salt and pepper to a great steak that takes skill and discipline. I like that. Salt and pepper to a great steak. Absolutely. That's fantastic. Charles doing really great. I'm glad. Hey, Karma, you're here. Thanks for tuning in. Everyone says, Karma, I'm so excited to be on the show, and I appreciate the compliment. Good sir. It's fantastic to have you with us tonight. So let's dive into part 2. Yeah, I like that idea. Let's dive in. Part 2 of the interview with Karma Auger.
Roll it.
Roll it. Let me ask you this question. Of all the gigs that you've done in your life, thousands and thousands of them, I'm sure, just like the rest of us, is there something that you've ever auditioned for that you wish you had gotten that you didn't?
There was a period where I did a fair amount of auditioning in town for a bunch of like tour gigs and stuff like that. Right.
Let me flip that then. Is there ever a gig that you did get that you wish you hadn't?
That's an even better question. I did some crazy gigs in my time, but they weren't like long tour gigs. Okay. So this is another thing. I'm a super like huge believer in like every situation is an experience to learn. Everything. Oftentimes we want to call things good or we want to call them bad. They're only bad if you don't take anything away from it, if you don't get something out of it, if you don't learn something from it. So I remember I did a straight ahead jazz gig in Pasadena years and years and years ago. A friend of mine, he called me and said, hey, there's these guys, they're playing this gig, and it's on Thanksgiving or something like that. And at the time, I didn't have a significant other. It was all groovy. So I took this gig, and it turned out to be that the bass was on click. I had to play to click, and it was all standards. And it was the weirdest.
I'm sorry, standards to a click?
Yeah, it was really bizarre. And we played 5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
So what I took away from it was I learned a ton of jazz music.
Right.
And like the whole real book or whatever, or a lot of the real book. And I learned to make the click groove, and this like bass, this click bass thing groove. And that was my whole mission. It was just, hey man, find the pocket and just be groovy and have fun.
That's another big lesson right there is you've got to learn to play well with a click and make it feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, I do that. That's what I do. That's my whole life is make the click feel good.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes that's pushing a little. Sometimes that's pulling a little. And I assume you did a lot of that while you're spangalanging.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And later on, those things helped me where I would get a call to, okay, we've recorded a drummer to click, and then the band has come in and played, and the groove doesn't work, and we now need you to put a groove down with the band the way the band is played to the click and make that feel good. And so I got called a lot to do that, and then I did some really great live stuff to click that was awesome and super fun.
That's fantastic.
And I had all that experience behind me, which was super helpful. So the drummer on the tour I did Steven's last tour, which was 2018, 2019, and we were on tour for 14 months. And now what's super interesting about Steven is he's a Grammy-winning remixer in 5/1, and he's now Grammy-nominated Atmos mixer for his last record. He got a nomination for his last solo record. And I love Steven to death. He's just absolute sweetheart and a great person to work for.
That's awesome.
And an incredible artist. So the drummer that did that tour was Craig Blundell, an English guy.
Yeah, I know that name.
He actually came out of marching band too.
Okay.
And incredible chops. Sure. And very prog.
Right. Well, you'd have to be.
Very British as well. Yeah. And a really sweet guy. Got it. Absolutely amazing guy, and really fun to tech for and work for. Now, on that gig, I teched for him, and he had a huge drum set and a bunch of electronics in the kit. Yeah. And so that was a fun gig.
God, I would think that would be a great learning experience.
Well, I was handling the computer at which ran time code for all the video that was happening on both the video screen, and we had this silk scrim that went across the front of the stage for some of the pieces, and things were projected onto that too. That was really, really cool. Nice. And then it was also, I was running all the tracks. Sure. So, and we were, the interesting thing about that tour is it was in 5/1. So we had satellite speakers in the back of all of the rooms and theaters and venues that we played, and there was stuff in those speakers coming back as well. So no other artist I've ever worked for has done that.
I've never even heard of that.
That was one of the most interesting things for me about the gig was, okay, so if I'm going to do something really cool and go in tech and do an interesting gig, this would be it. Yeah, right. And it was really fun because of those technical aspects of it. And then I was also teching for Steven's keyboard rig, and the main keyboard player. And he had a really complicated setup with lots of pedals and stuff. Right. But it was an enormous workload. You know, it was 16, 18-hour days every day.
For 14 months.
Boy, do you sleep good on the tour bus.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now it's time for Blast Beats with Karma Auger.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Roll it.
Are we ready? Here we go. Cat or dog?
Dog.
He says with a question mark. Money or happiness?
Oh, happiness.
Yeah, I knew that one about you. Hip hop or rock?
Oh, man. You're breaking my heart. That's a 50-50 for me.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Would you rather be hot or cold?
Hot.
Yeah. You live in LA. None of us want to be cold. Not here.
No, I'm just thinking, like, would I rather be on a beach in Indonesia surfing perfect waves with no wetsuit, or would I rather be freezing in the mountains?
Yeah. No.
I like freezing in the mountains, but
yeah, I get it.
Girls in bikinis, I think that wins.
That's a win every time.
That wins.
Yeah. Talk or text?
Talk.
Yeah, I could see that. A very important one here. New York style or Chicago style? You need to answer this carefully. I
get this wrong. I'm gonna have to go with New York style.
Oh no, that's
sorry to break your heart.
Oh. What was the last song that you downloaded?
Oh gosh, what is the last song I downloaded? Actually, believe it or not, it was "What Is Soul" by Benny King.
No kidding.
Yeah,
that's a good choice. Nice.
Yeah.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh gosh, I think it was one of the girls on Facts of Life.
Oh, no kidding. Were you a Tootie fan, or were you like a Lisa fan?
It was the blonde, I think.
That was Lisa,
blonde.
yeah.
And it could have been Tatum O'Neal before.
Oh, that was good too. Yeah. Bad News Bears, she was awesome.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
She was amazing.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. Okay. Have you ever worn socks with sandals?
No, I have not. Worn
There's really
with sandals.
there's no excuse for that. Not even to go to.
Sometimes
the
I
trash
do it just because it's fun when I'm like running downstairs. I'll be in socks and I'll throw my flip flops on,
right.
and I'm like, whoa, that's interesting.
You should do it just to embarrass your kids.
I don't want to go out like that.
No, but you should just once with the kids.
It's a British thing, by the way. Like Brits
really?
love to come to a hot place and wear black socks with sandals.
Really?
Yeah, like Tevas.
Oh my.
I know, it's a thing.
Don't ever say anything to us about fanny packs. That's the stereotype, right? Americans and their fanny packs.
Yes.
Shawshank Redemption or Godfather?
It's got to be Godfather.
Yeah, it's good. That's a tough one.
That is a tough one. Because Shawshank is an incredible
It's
film.
so good, right?
Yeah.
It's so good. How good are you at ping pong?
I would, out of 1 to 10, I would give myself a 4 to 5.
That was a quick answer. You've played.
My dad had a table when we were kids in the States.
Nice.
And he would invite everybody over and they would go at it.
Do you do the upside down, backhand thing?
I do not do that, no.
You've seen that though, you know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you mean, yes.
It's fairly astonishing to me.
It's like, I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, I can't.
I don't know what it's
traditional
like.
grip.
Have you ever seen people write with a pencil that way?
Yes.
So I can't do that either.
I eat traditional grip. I don't know what that means.
Do you really?
I do, really.
That's awesome.
Oh, man. Okay, finally, give me one guilty pleasure.
I don't know, late night ice cream?
Oh, okay, I like it. Mine's like 90210. So, or Barry Manilow.
Oh, okay, like a music.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Sure.
I like the ice cream thing. We'll go with that.
Ice cream is my guilty pleasure.
I like it.
Sure.
All right, well, that is Karma's Blast Beats.
That was awesome. I loved it.
Okay, so tell me your Mount Rushmore of drummers.
Oh, man.
How many are there? You can only do this many.
You can only do 4?
Because it's a Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
So the trick is to narrow it down to that.
Okay.
Because we all could name 37 people.
Of course. We got to start all the way back, the old school, right?
Sure.
So first and foremost, I think it's got to be somebody in my dad's bands because I listened to so much of that. So that was such an influence even before I started playing drums and before I knew that they were influences.
Sure.
So I think we got to start with, it's got to be Robbie McIntosh.
It's a good choice.
It's got to be. Steve, I'm sorry. I love you. He's my godfather.
I knew that.
He'll forgive me.
Yes.
You'll forgive me, won't you? Then I think I also have to go with Bernard Purdie because he's just been such a massive funk influence in my life from forever. And then moving forward, I would have to, in the era that I grew up, right, the guys that I really, really listened to, and I'm just going to pick 2 from that era. The first one is going to be Dennis Chambers. I am a huge Dennis fan. He's become a friend. I love him dearly, and he's just always been one of the baddest cats.
Yeah.
I've copped so much of his licks over time and tried to learn so much of what he does and did.
His singles make me want to cry.
Yeah, I mean that.
Yeah, it's like. Yeah, I'm never going to be that fast.
It's just spectacular. It's so insane. It's so good. I don't know if you can get that fast. I don't know if it's humanly possible to get that fast. And then he plays like such a machine that the flip side to that coin for me is, of that time again, is Omar Hakim.
Oh, so
Omar
good.
Makes everything feel unbelievable. He's like a musician playing drums. It's not like a drummer playing drums.
That's right.
It's music that's happening out of a drum kit. And I'm just an absolute massive fan of his and have been since forever. So I would say those 2.
That's a good choice. Those are 4 good choices. When I found out Omar had played Get Lucky, it knocked me on the floor. Yeah. I had no idea that was him.
Okay, so I'm just finding out right now.
This very second that that's him. Yeah, that's him on that.
But it makes perfect sense,
right?
Because it feels so great.
So good.
Yeah.
And I always just assumed it's Daft Punk. They programmed it, but no, it was freaking Omar. I couldn't get over that.
That's insane.
Yeah, right?
And then if I had to just pick one more, I'm going to go with Bonham.
Oh, okay.
Another funk pocket master.
There you go.
Who just feels great and makes everything feel good. Okay, can I ask you what yours are?
Sure. Mine, we this has been asked of me a few times, and it's pretty locked in. Sometimes I morph it a little. But for me, number one with a bullet is Vinny Colaiuta.
Great.
Always, forever.
Great.
Just the way that he took everything and went left with it. It just blew my mind. So Vinny, and Vinny could do it in a lot of ways.
He really could.
He really could. Stuart Copeland, he's another one.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. That guy is, wow. Just so
the influence he's had on drummers.
Yeah. And it continues even now.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he really hasn't been a drummer for 30 years, he's a composer as much as anything now. It still resonates.
Yeah, for sure.
I played this show last week and we covered Roxanne. And I had to dig back into my Stuart Copeland bag of tricks to do that. I was like, oh, this is so fun. Good. Yeah, I loved it. Carter Beauford is on that list for me.
Killer drummer.
And he's my Dennis. They have very similar styles.
I see them.
Yeah. I have a story.
The family tree.
Right. I played in a band in college that Dave Matthews Band, they were just becoming the next big thing as we were just a local cover band, but we were the biggest local cover band in town.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime they came and played the clubs, we opened.
Oh, that's so
Sometimes
fun.
We'd be on a different stage in the same room. Regardless, it was an amazing thing to sit on the edge of the stage and experience Carter washing over me.
Mm-hmm.
That was just that was indelible for sure. And finally for me is Liberty DeVito.
Killer drummer,
right?
Another killer drummer. Yeah.
And just the way that he approaches, he's a musical guy.
Yeah.
And the way he approached all that Billy Joel pop, I just love it.
Yeah, good stuff. The way he sets fills up.
Yes.
And the way he moves into sections.
Yes.
Is so special and cool.
It is. Have you ever watched him play?
I've never, only on video. I've never seen him live.
I've never seen a harder hitter in my life than him. And you wouldn't think that with Billy Joel, but I'm telling you, he plays these ProMark sticks. There's, baseball bats. They make mine look small.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, that dude, he hits as hard as Kenny Aronoff ever did. It's unbelievable to me. Yeah.
That's really cool. I think that's one thing that, if there's something that I would want to also say, speaking to that, is there's really no substitute. Like, YouTube's amazing and watching videos is amazing and it's an incredible tool, but get out and see people live. It's a different experience. Be in the room.
It is.
And it's rare air. It really is. It's a huge, that's how our generation, that was the only way you could experience it. You had to go and see it when they came to town and make time and go and buy the ticket and get in.
You lived in a place where you could. I didn't. Nobody ever came through rural Mississippi. So I had to make an effort to go see the biggest concerts that would come through town. I'm so jealous of all you guys that lived out here.
Yeah, I hear that. I totally get it.
Unbelievable to me. Any parting wisdom? Let's say we've got somebody watching right now who's thinking about doing what we do for a living and they're just getting started. What would you tell them?
Yeah. Well, drums are loud, and so figure out a place that you can do it where you're not kind of wreaking havoc on all the people around you. I think that's one important thing. And I know that's so tough, but it's one of those initial things. Play with other people. It's super important, and that's ultimately what your goal should be. It shouldn't be to just make videos in your room by yourself and play drums. It should be to be in a dope band and make great music, and inspire other people and change people's lives by doing it. That's really the thing. And to get to do this is a true privilege. It's really special. To get to travel the world. What I've done is I've gotten to travel the world for 30 years, and I've got to bring music and make people happy everywhere that we go. And that has been really an incredible privilege to see how music really is the international language of planet Earth, and how it doesn't matter where you go, everybody gets it, no matter what culture or language or what's going on. When you play music to people, it just makes people happy. And many times I've had the experience of going to see a show where I walked out of there and I was just happy for the next 2 weeks because of that.
Yeah.
It just made my, I can name those shows, and it's important. It is important. I know that we are living in crazy times and the world is, insane, but music has a huge value. To me, music is the color in the movie of life. Without music, we're living in a black and white movie, and who needs to go back to a black and white movie? Nobody does. So make music, get out there, be passionate, find out what your thing is and go for it, and find people who want to do it too in their own instruments and play with those people and find community. And, if you're a drummer, find other drummers and play with them and groove with them and play off of each other. And to just, there's no wrong way to do it. And allow for experiences to be exactly that, experiences that you can take something away from.
I can't add anything to that. Well done. Final question. Final Jeopardy.
Final question.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Here it is. It's the most important question that I ask. Every guest that comes on the show gets this question. Okay? So if you answer it incorrectly, our friendship is over. The question is this. What is your favorite Rick Springfield song? You can't say Jesse's Girl.
What do you mean? That song changed my life.
How?
I was so happy when I heard it. It was just like the way it starts and everything.
Okay,
it is Jesse's Girl.
Okay, I'll let you say
it. It really is. Sorry.
It's a good one. It's a really good one.
It is a really good one.
Most people default to that because it's the only one that they immediately can think of. There's a great catalog.
You're right. And he actually he lives out in Malibu,
right.
And I've actually met him, and he's a super nice guy.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. We had his bass player on a couple of weeks back, and it was fun to ask him that question.
Oh, what did he say?
Jesse's Girl.
Did he really?
Yeah, actually, yeah, because he played it. He was in the video and all of that, so he's the bass player in the striped shirt in the Jesse's Girl video.
just watched that video a week ago.
He was in that chair a couple of weeks back. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I loved this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
It's been so fun. We'll have to do it again. In fact, we're gonna meet up at his studio soon, and we're gonna do another segment of the Karma Auger Show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, buddy.
You got
awesome.
This episode is brought to you by Hearback Pro from Hear Technologies. The ability to hear yourself clearly in a recording or live situation is key to delivering your best, most creative performance. The Hearback Pro system, made up of a hub and individual mixers, allows performers in a session or on a gig the ability to dial in exactly what they need to hear in order to be their best. If you're looking for a solution to allow yourself or your clients to hear themselves better, check out Hearback Pro from Hear Technologies.
And now, you know why Karma became one of my favorite people. What a great, great guy, a great interview. The phrase, music is the color in the movie of life. I mean, that's so brilliantly said because it's so brilliantly true. Karma, thank you for that little piece of wisdom, maybe is the right word. I mean, that's an incredible thing to leave with me, with the crowd that's watching, and to live your life philosophically that way. Just amazing. Wanted to say a quick hello to David Schulman. It's your first time with us. I appreciate you being here. I hope you'll stick around and come back week over week. Be sure to like and subscribe. You know how that stuff goes on all the various social media channels. Justin Scheidling. New York Style did not win. No. Chicago Style is the clear winner.
Detroit
Hello.
Style.
Detroit Style's not even pizza.
Yes, it is.
Oh, come on.
It's really good.
If you get a chance to peruse all things YouTube, and you can find the Keith Emerson tribute show, Karma played that, and that was the first time I had seen Karma and his dad play together live in the same room. And it knocked me out at how good Karma was, and them together, the synergy that they have. If you can find that running around on YouTube, it's worth your time, worth digging around. I happened to be in the audience live, and it was a night to remember, I'll tell you. And I think, who was it that said that? Let me see. Who was that said it a second ago? Veronica. Oh, welcome from down under. Thanks for joining us as always, Veronica. Live has the best vibe. That's exactly right. Going and seeing live music, taking a live in-person lesson where somebody can go, no, don't hold it this way, hold it this way. It's so different than watching it on YouTube. YouTube's great. I just told you to go find something. But having that hands-on experience, that in-the-room magic, makes such a difference in how things impact you. So if you get the chance, don't shortchange that. Absolutely go and do that. Be part of the world, okay? It's going to make a big difference. And, I think a lot about this. We all emulate our heroes. In fact, Karma said, that all the people are playing cymbals way up high, so he put his up high. We emulate the people that we admire. And I have a pretty good suspicion that an awful lot of people watching this tonight are going to start emulating Karma Auger. Thanks again for being here with us tonight, Karma. Thank you to everyone that's joined us tonight. We really appreciate it. It's been a fun time for us. Next week, we have a treat. Richard Grossman, bass player for Three Dog Night, and Rick Springfield. He's going to be with us next week. And we had a ball as well. Richard is a seasoned, unbelievable bass player. So he has a different take on the music business and the way that we interact with people. And I think that's going to be a really interesting interview for you guys to see. So come back and see us next week, 9 p.m. Pacific time, with Richard Grossman. Like and subscribe to all of the channels at Groove Diner After Dark. That's at YouTube, Twitch, soon to be on LinkedIn. Where else are we at? We're everywhere. Facebook, all the places. And then Buddy Gibbons on TikTok. If you want to come see me eat chips, please do that. And Instagram. That's right. I forgot about Instagram. Groove Diner After Dark on Instagram as well. Thank you to Eli for being here and running the technical side of everything tonight. Charles, yeah, he did finally. He kind of got the question right, sort of. Did you guys, seriously, Charles, did you guys have Rick Springfield songs in South Africa? I'm curious because my English friends are not as familiar with Springfield because he didn't seem to hit over there. Kind of wondered if he hit in South Africa or not. I know Derek Badenhorst might be watching too. He's down there in South Africa as well. I wonder if he's might answer that. Anyway, thanks again for being here, and we will see you again live in person from the Groove Diner next week. Until then, roll this thing.